ever wonder why the people in your life sprout, grow, and sometimes fade through the ever-changing landscape of life? Today, we are diving candidly into the joys, challenges, and profound female connections that define and shape us as we get older. That's coming up next.
Welcome to the Living Richly podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Kate, and this is Wendy. You may have noticed that Eric and Rob are gone yet again.
Well planned. Let's do the high five again.
It's like we're taking over or something. But you will see us, just the two of us, more often. We're going to start leaning into more, female-centric subjects, coming at it with that female lens. And today is one of those shows, and I'm super excited about it. We're talking about female friendships and how those show up in our lives, how we nurture those, how those have grown over the years. And for me, I can honestly say I'm super excited about today. Outside of my kids, my female friends, and my family, obviously, are like at my heart. And so to talk about this today, and I think to share too for some of our male listeners to understand the importance of female friendships and how they really nurture us and nurture our soul.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of putting it, and also how they can support us or support their partner in that journey as we evolve. And just, I loved what you said there for the opening part as to the importance of it, but also the evolution of it and how relationships and community and friendships now in our mid-40s is so different than when it was in our 20s. And part of that is being okay with that. Part of that is embracing it. Part of that is being open to all of, that shifting that happens when we do get older and how we evolve with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, for me, my friendships have changed so much over the years. When I was growing up, I always had like one best friend. That's sort of my comfort zone. I am an introvert by nature, which means I don't like to talk to lots of people. Yeah. I love talking to one person one-on-one. So when I go to a party, I'll find a person and we'll hang out. I don't need to scour the room. Right. So for me, friendships were always very solitary. And that includes female friendships. And I also spent a lot of time at my cottage surrounded by boys. And so when I grew up, I actually had a ton of guy friends. Yep. And I was far more comfortable around boys because I was young. I just fit in better. It was my comfort zone. It's what I grew up with. And I remember later in life trying to navigate female friendships. And I was lost because I showed up as more with that male energy. Right. And I didn't know how to navigate sort of the female part of the friendship. And then as I obviously got older and into my 30s, different friendships show up. And then now into my 40s, friendships have evolved even further. But it is a journey of female friendships for me.
It is, yeah. And, we start in high school and, we both have kids that are in high school, and kind of seeing our kids go through that need to be liked, that need to want to have people around them. Social media, of course, is a big player in that as well, which then kind of stems from, how many likes are we getting and how many followers do we have and how many friends do we have, right? And just that need to be liked so desperately for many people when we're kind of in that high school phase, and then transitioning as we get older and you go through, those different stages of life. I mean, my friendships now are so different, and it took me a while. So interestingly, one of the episodes we did was around forgiveness, and being okay with recognizing that it's okay that not everything today is going to be the same as it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and celebrating what you experienced when you had it, and then being okay that other things have evolved and new people come into your life. Like your circle of friends sometimes is very close. And for some people, it's the same. I think you and I have had this conversation before around your friend circle, and correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. has been very solid, and like you guys have grown up together, if I remember correctly.
No, so it's a bit different. So I have a solid group of friends I've known for 20 years.
Right.
But what's interesting is that, so yes, I have that consistency, but I also have some of my closest girlfriends today I've met along that path.
Yes.
Right. And they have, as you evolve, you start attracting different people, different friendships into your life. I remember my mom said when I was young, and it stuck with me. Well, two things. One, she said, your female friendships are like no other friendships you will ever have. So cherish them, which I now get as I get older.
It's amazing how we reflect back on things that our moms would tell us.
And then the second was, she's like, friends will come in for, I'm going to get this wrong, but like for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And it was to embrace all of those things. And that for me gave me permission to, when, over time, some friendships dwindle, lifestyles change, you have kids, they don't, whatever, someone moves away. There's just things that can get in the way of some friendships. And that gave me permission to be like, okay with it, that's the evolution of that, right? Or some friends show up when you're in crisis or going through something, and then you come together, and then the next thing you know, you're going apart again.
Right.
And maybe we'll flow back again. Like,
yes.
That's what I love about friendship.
Yeah. One of my closest friends, so let me start off by saying, for a lot of people when we're in high school, it's about having, being, popular. Not everybody, but you want to be like, it's just the natural tendency of growing up.
Yeah.
And then, as life evolves, it becomes more, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies.
Right.
And so one of my quarters, because now I'm at a stage in my life where I have, really shifted friendships to nobody's fault or anything. I think a lot of times as women, we've talked a lot about guilt, but to nobody's fault. And it's just how life has evolved. But one of my closest friends, we go through the ebbs and flows of, sometimes we will go months without talking. Yeah. And I love the friendship that we have, because she's the type of person that I don't have to feel bad if I don't text back right away. If she texts me, I don't feel like, I'm okay with, sometimes it'll be weeks before it. Nobody takes it personally, and we just pick right back up where we left off. And I just find that so refreshing, where there's no expectations on how, I was going to say how I behave. That's not what I meant, but how things need to be, where I just know I could call her at 3:00 in the morning and she would be there for me. But it's okay if we go several months without talking.
Well, and I think that's one of the things, we can talk about a few characteristics of really like what we cherish in our friendships. But I think predictability of how someone will show up is so necessary. So it's like you know how each other's going to show up, and you're both okay with it,
right?
And that's what makes the dance work, right? Because it's predictable. If you call her at 3 a.m., she'll be there. You also know if you don't text her back, there's no harshness. Everyone gets to show up exactly who they are, how they are, and there's comfortableness, right, in that predictability.
Yeah, right? That comfort piece is so. It's a source of stability.
Yeah,
it's a source of stability.
Yeah.
And it really allows you, when you do have that community, and so there's probably a lot of people listening, how do I find that community? How do I kind of shift away from maybe friendships or community where I feel I have them more out of obligation than necessity? Yeah,
I think, we always say this, and we call it unnecessary endings on the show a lot, but there's times that it's okay if your friendship kind of fizzles, and it's okay. It doesn't mean it's gone. It's just, as we talked about earlier, the ebbs and flows. I really, truly believe that happens a lot. It happens in almost every relationship we have in our lives. So we our friends fall into that same boat. I think it's okay to let go of friendships that aren't serving you, that are not healthy for you. If friendships feel more like I have to's, I shoulds, I must, to me, I think I'd start asking myself, yourself, okay, well, what am I getting out of this friendship, right? Like, why am I feeling this way, and start listening to that. So I think the first step in sort of, you know, finding your community of women is maybe letting go of some friendships. I'm not suggesting anyone needs to get rid of any friendships. I'm just saying, but it's good to ask yourselves those questions to be like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling like this is something I don't want to go do?
Yeah. So I had somebody ask me that several years ago around, well, how do I let go of those people in my life where I feel like I just can't, but I'm keeping that friendship kind of burning, but it's not really burning because I'm always having to put wood on the fire or I feel like it's one way, or we've shifted so much, and there's no right or wrong, but I think just letting that naturally evolve, where it's okay if you're speaking a little bit less. It's okay if you're not seeing each other as much. You know, now every situation is different, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need to have a conversation, say, okay, so we've been friends now for X amount of years and now it's done. Like, I'm not suggesting that, but I think it's okay to just naturally let that fizzle out because, going down different paths isn't always a bad thing, and celebrating what you did have at that time. I think it's kind of like both of our marriages that we were in before, like celebrating the years that you did have, and not just, oh, now all that's gone. Like, think we've moved on, but celebrating that period of time when it was a big part in your life.
When things were great. And it's, you know, I have friendships I had when I was married that I don't have anymore. They just fizzled or were shut down or cut off entirely. That's part of divorce, unfortunately. But you get to see who your true friends are and who shows up for you. You know, the whole get to mindset was founded, you know, really around Tanya, my girlfriend who passed away. But through Tanya, I met this phenomenal group of women, and we've been friends for over 20 years, and we've navigated a lot of ups and downs. And I think the beauty of female friendship is we talk about everything. We've navigated, I don't know, death, marriage, birth, kids, illness, you know, divorce, you know, miscarriages. We talk about everything, and having that community of women for me has been my foundation. It was my foundation through the divorce, for sure. Without them, I honestly don't know how I just would have come out differently from it. But for me, you know, knowing that, you know, over 20 years, we can talk about all kinds of things, but also my girlfriends that I've known for 10 years or 8 years, we still have that same level of intimacy, and we still have those conversations, and we still laugh a lot. Well, and that's such a healthy part of, those types of relationships is being able to laugh at yourself, being able to laugh at the silly things, and just being able, there's nothing more freeing than just feeling like you can let loose and just be your authentic self without any judgment, without any, you know, hesitation around how am I going to be looked at, perceived. Of course, it's different, you know, when you're a teenager and you're always, oh, I don't want to look silly. I don't want to look stupid, or they're going to make fun of me. And you get to that stage in your life when you have that right tribe and community, knowing that the tribe that you have, you know, should always clap for you, should always want to see you cheer you on,
should cheer you on, right? Without that, you know, feeling of jealousy, or, you know, and women do a pretty good job at cutting each other up, like women and females and girls. And, you know, I see it with my daughters in high school right now, can be mean.
Yes, they can.
And so really learning how to kind of navigate, again, what serves you and where you want that good energy to come from. And finding those people you can laugh with and be silly with.
And just be 100% who you are with. I think, you know, I love when you talk about women celebrating other women, because that's just such a huge one for me. What I also love is the flip of that, whereas my friends will hold me highly accountable to, they'll call me out on stuff where they're like, not in a mean way, but they'll question me. There's been a few times where they're like, "What, like literally, what the fuck are you doing? Like, not a good move, right?" And you want those people in your life. You want the people that are gonna, call you when you're making a bad decision. Yeah, after a few drinks, it happens, right? So like, we all need a little bit of wine, you up, and it's all fine. But that for me is equally important in a friendship because it's honest conversation. Yeah. And when women hold other women accountable, I think it's done in a way that's like, it's direct, but it's also so warm because you always, in the moment you might be like, hey, mind your own business. But then afterwards, when you can look at it, you like, there's so much heart behind that accountability. So much. And it's like anything in life in terms of that feedback that we get, is sometimes hard to hear, but knowing that it's coming from a place of service and knowing that it's coming from a place of, okay, maybe I need a reality check. I know, same for me. I sometimes need to be put in my place, or I need that reality check from those people in my life, that group of, women that I have. Yeah. Because sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes we need somebody to call us out on our own bullshit. And sometimes that helps push us to the places that we want to go or make the decisions that we know we should make, but we don't want to make. And just having that support team and that support behind you. That unconditional support behind you. Yeah. And I know, for some of our male listeners out there, I was recently reading, super interesting. We'll put it in the show notes. It was from UCLA, and they did a study, and it showed that in high stress situations, women tend to want to tend and help, and men go to fight or flight. And what they found was there was a link to, I'm going to get this wrong, oxytocin. Yes, because I'm not a scientist or a medical doctor. Disclaimer. Just a disclaimer. Oxytocin levels are higher with the presence of estrogen, and with the presence of testosterone, oxytocin levels go down. And so what was fascinating to me is that's your happy, like, right? Yeah. That's your I feel great. I'm all warm and fuzzy. So when we're helping in high stress, we're actually feeling really good about ourselves, and men are feeling they don't get the same high that we get. Right. And I found that so interesting because I was like, that's fascinating to me, because no wonder women, like, and I'll make an overarching statement, tend to be natural caregivers because we're actually getting a bit of a high off of it. So I found that so fascinating, just that there's sort of like, a hormonal difference that you can clinically talk to about in those situations. But I think that's a great point to bring up because women will often say, these relationships are important to me, but I either feel guilty about taking time away from the family so, talking about how we nurture those, right? Yeah. So letting go of the guilt and having your partner be able to recognize that it's such a healthy state for us to be in, where we're not consuming all of our energy and our entire life on our kids or on our partner or on our jobs. And that's such a crucial part of our well-being and learning how to nurture that. And of course we all laugh as women, right? And I know the group of, my main circle of friends, there's a group of 4 of us, and it's, well, I guess we'll make plans now since the next time we see each other will be Easter. So, then we laugh, and let's make sure that we do it before 7:00 at night because, we'll be tired and, then it'll be time to go to bed. But so we joke about that, but really and truly learning how to make it a priority to carve that time out. Yeah. Even if it's just for 2 hours. Yeah, and it's hard. And I will say this, like, through the ebbs and flows of my longer term girlfriends, young kids, older kids, teenage kids, divorces. Is this your week with the kids? Is this my week? Like, figuring out life, right? Yes. There's times where we can see each other more, right? And there's times where we see each other less, and embracing that and being okay with that. No pressure. Like, we tried monthly brunches for a while. I feel like it failed epically after a few. Like, we tried so hard. And now I feel like we're getting back to seeing each other. Coming out of COVID too, obviously there was a lot of like not seeing each other. And now we're starting to kind of get back into, you know, kids are older, more casual gets-togethers. We're actually going to an ABBA cover band on Saturday, which I can't wait. So so doing those kinds of things are starting, I would say, to come back and flow back. And it's so important to carve out the time.
It is. And because we all know the work is always there. The housework is always like that will never change. There. You reach a certain point in your life where you just know all of the shit's still going to be here. Where are my priorities? And being able to share that with your partner so that they know that in order for us to be able to pour more into them, it's being able to fill our cup with the other things that are super important to our well-being, our mental state, our emotional state. And having those female friendships and having that community is crucial.
It's a sounding board sometimes.
It is.
And I remember Eric and I have talked about this, but for me, it's a sounding board for our relationship too. Like sometimes I need an ear on something, and it's not something I can talk to him about, not because we're not, you know, close or not having those conversations. It's something I'm dealing with, and I need another woman's perspective on it. I need their insight. I need like, can you help me navigate that? And so for me, it really becomes, it's, you know, you think of like, when I think of community, there's so many legs in my community from, you know, Eric, my kids, my family, my girlfriends, like there's just so much in there, but my girlfriends give me a lens that's raw and real and funny. And, I need that. It's like, it is food for my soul for me. I know after a night out with my girlfriends, I'm full. And I love that feeling. It's like a feeling of joy. And I'm not suggesting we don't have hard conversations, because we do. Often someone's crying about something, because that's how we're communicating and we're talking, and you know, we're all going through our own stuff, and so there's a lot of joy, but there's also a lot of love, and so that creates a lot of conversation, which can lead to tears at times. Like that's part of that amazing comfort level that we have,
which is healthy.
Yeah,
right. You know, a lot of people think, and you know, I share this with my kids often. Just because somebody's crying, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It is such a release of energy, and it's healthy to be able to do that. And then to be able to do that with, you know, your friends is even, and sometimes it's just crying from exhaustion because you're so tired of just being on all the time and doing all the things, and that's okay too. But really celebrating where you're at. And this kind of morphs into kind of my next question around, like, a lot of people will ask, well, how do you find those people? Like, I feel like, and I'm sure you've heard it before too, but I feel like I haven't found my tribe. I feel like I don't know. I feel like something's missing. So how do I find that community? How do I find that tribe? Or how do I find people that connect with me?
I think it's about, you know, as I said, I have a solid group of girlfriends, but I've also, you know, met lots of girlfriends along the way, who I'm super close with. And I think it's about being open and being, you know, open to connection, open to grabbing a drink, going for coffee, going to work out, whatever that looks like, but open to spending time with someone new, because you have to be able to open up to, you know, let friendship in. So I think sometimes that can show up at work. I know a lot of us work from home now. That can show up at the gym. That can show up, you know, if you have an interest, if you're interested in photography, go take a class. And it really is about putting yourself out there, and it is about reaching out. And as women, we're not very good at asking for what we want. There's a theme.
Or help.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I ask for help all the time.
Right. I don't. I am not. I mowed my own lawn last night. Thank you. Eric's like, I could do that for you. I'm like, I got it.
How are you? I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Right? But I think it's the same for friendship. Like, if you're seeking closer, or just, you know, you're looking for something new, it's be open and just try. You date friends like you date your person you're going to be with, and not everyone you date is going to be your person. Right. I think it's the same for friendship. We're not meant to be, you know, close, intimate friends with everybody.
No. And I think recognizing that and being okay with that. You're going to have not just friends in different seasons, but also different friends that you're going to know who you can count on if you're struggling with a certain problem, or like, you know your friend that you can call if you need a good laugh. You know your friend that you can call if you're in a crisis. You know, and being okay to open yourself up to that. And then finding, so, you know, when you mentioned photography, somewhere along the way of life, we forget about the things that we like to do and that we love to do. We forget about our hobbies and our passions, and especially when we're raising kids and and we're working at all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden the kids get older. You know, I see it now with my girls where I don't see them as much anymore. And it's about reigniting that fire and that spark about things that you love to do. What did you love to do before you got married and had kids and had your career and all of those kinds of things, right? And there's so many groups and there's so many things out there. I mean, social media, you know, we joke about it as kind of the you know, sometimes that's not so great, but it's also really good for finding groups, finding networks, because to your point, you have to open yourself up to that and allow that kind of joy to be able to flow through, and find things that you feel bring you energy and bring you passion and bring you joy, that then allow you to open up to meet new people. Which is really hard for some people.
It is really hard for some people. I think one lens to look at it too is it's proven that community and friendship is good for your physical health. So we know that. Eric and I are watching a documentary, I forget what's something blue zones, but it's all around these blue zones all over the world, which are these pockets of people who live to 90 years plus, but they're all in one area. So there's this researcher that goes out to try and figure out, okay, is it DNA? Is it what they're eating? Is it what they're drinking? Like trying to figure out the big mystery. And there's lots of factors, but two big ones are movement, walking, not gym, but walking, like just movement, period, and community. And so most of the blue zones, they, as parents age, they live with their kids. They live with other, older, I don't want to offend anyone, like elderly folk. So they're all living in community. In Singapore, the government is giving a grant out so that parents can live close to their kids, so that they can afford to do it, because it's preventative care, so that their healthcare system doesn't get overrun as the population is aging. So thinking about it from that lens, we know the power of community too, just in our personal health, because it feeds us. So when you're seeking out friendship too, I think it's important to look at it from that. It's the same as you know, taking care of your health. What you put in your body, what you feed your mind, who you hang out with is or spend time with is equally important.
And I would say if you don't have those people in your life that you feel aren't relating to you in terms of whatever it is that you're going through, that it's okay to seek out other friendships, to seek out other communities, to seek out, not in a way that's overwhelming, where then you've kind of got your hands in everything, because as we know, overwhelmed women do nothing.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. But finding one or two things that make you feel great, and being okay with being open to that kind of awkwardness at first when you're meeting somebody new, but going into those new communities and stuff, and then recognizing that once you get to that place, you know when you have found your tribe.
You will know.
You know when you have found your community. And it's a difficult feeling to describe, but you just know. Women are very intuitive, and
you're home. You feel 100% like you can be yourself. And I think ultimately showing up as you are and being accepted for who you are, that's your tribe.
It totally is. And it has nothing to do. So sometimes as women, or oftentimes as women, all the time as women, we tend to do things out of obligation, holding on to things and relationships, friendships, anything around that, that don't serve us, can feel very exhausting. And so for a lot of people who sometimes think, but I've been friends with this person, or this person has been in my life for 20 years, but I feel like we just don't relate anymore. And if you ever find yourself in that situation where you get a text from somebody and it's like, hey, let's get together, and you're like, ugh, but I don't want to,
yes.
then that is a sign that things have shifted. So it's not necessarily about who you've known the longest,
That's
right?
right.
Like solid friendships and community, it's not about who you've known the longest. It's all about the breadth and not the depth. Like you could know somebody for 2 years and know more about them and be closer to them than somebody that you've known for 20 years. And that's okay, because the short time sometimes, right? Short time versus long time doesn't always equal bigger impact.
Yeah. And I think it's critically important, you know, if you have close friends, it's critically important that you also nurture them and spend time with them. And you have to honor them. And I think that's really important.
Yep. Scheduling, carving that time out, communicating with your partner.
100%.
I know we talked about this in one of our last episodes around sometimes we feel like our partners, like sometimes I'll think Rob knows what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Doesn't he?
I don't know why he's not a mind reader, but we see that sometimes, right? Where we think, well, I don't understand why they don't know what I'm thinking. Being open to communicating that to your partner, your spouse around, this is important to me and this is why it's important to me, because they don't always understand, and they're not going to understand.
Yep.
Number one, because they're boys.
Yes.
Sometimes boys don't understand things.
What?
Except Steve. He understands everything.
Right?
Steve.
Yay!
But making sure that you're articulating that and you're communicating that as to why that's important to you.
Yeah.
That's such a great way for you to be able to nurture it. And I think we already touched on this, but yes, when it gets really busy, it's so easy to put things on the back burner.
Yeah.
But how much of a priority do we make it? Because it totally is part of our mental health and our self-care.
100%. 100%. I think we're going to wrap it up as we're getting near the end of the show. I want to just give a huge shout out to my girlfriends and say thank you for all that you do all of the time in my life. I cherish our friendships beyond this world. So thanks. That's just my little piece.
I love that. I love that. And since you've done that,
you
I'm going to give a shout out to my tribe as well. You know who you are. You know who you are. You've been with me through some of my darkest times and some of my toughest times, but have also been there to make me smile, cheer me on, and just treasure and value it so much and so deeply. Even if we don't see each other every single week,
that's it.
Big part of my life. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. If something resonated with you, you took away a tidbit, please share with your friends. Sharing is caring, as we say on the podcast. So please like, share, and subscribe. That way you'll get all the latest episodes directly to you. You can also check out our website at livingrichlly.me for all of the show notes. And also you can take a peek at some of our previous podcasts. So with that, thanks again for joining us, and continue living your best life.